morning everyone. I'm over here beside the raised garden bed area on this beautiful warm spring day, and I'm so excited to show you around this week. I've made a start on putting out a lot more of those frost tender summer annuals in the ground, but while I wait for them to grow, I've got plenty of spring blooms to keep my flower addiction satisfied. So let me go and show you all of them, plus what else I've been up to this week. This is the area in our back garden which is beside the side gate. It was only a few weeks ago when I showed you the weedy mess in here. But over the last few days I've made a start on clearing it up and putting some new plants in the ground. I was a bit rootless over in this section, pulling out a lot of self-seeded plants. Here's this area from a different angle. I took them out because I knew I needed to make room for some summer annual flowers. It can be hard pulling out volunteer plants like these that you know are happy and healthy where they've decided to grow, but sometimes it needs to be done. So if I had left the self-seeded or volunteer plants in here, which were the same as what you see here, like this borage and California poppies, they were all in this section. If I had left them to grow and flower, it would just extend this patch and it would look quite pretty. But I know in about November, so in a couple of months time, the end of November, early December, it would have, passed its best, and I'd be pulling out these plants and I'd be left with a huge bare patch as you come through the side gate. So instead of that happening, I've now planned ahead where I put all my little seedlings in the ground. There are zinnias, sunflowers and cosmos planted in a big drift along this section here. In a few months' time they will be flowering while these other ones will be pulled out, and then I'll think of something else to put in its place. So if any of you are watching this and you're new to gardening, let me just quickly explain what an annual flower is. This is a really good example. So what you're looking at here with these lovely blue flowers, they are called borage. And what happens with these is they have their complete life cycle in one season. What that means is the seed germinates, grows, flowers, produces seed and then dies off, and that can happen in a matter of months. Here's another example. This plant is called calendula, and there are some really great advantages to growing annuals in your garden. Although they don't last, oh look at that, I missed that weed. Although they don't last very long, they sure do put on a mass display of flowers, which adds so much colour in your garden. Just saw this pretty flower. And I'm also noticing that I need to do a bit of deadheading, which is removing all of these spent flowers. I do this because by removing them, it will encourage more flowers. So you can see there's plenty of fresh little flower buds on this plant. I really do need to come in here, look at this. But if I was to leave all of these on the plant, it would probably die off sooner because it's done its job. All of these little green things here are actually the seeds developing, and once they are produced, this plant will feel like its job is done and it can just die off, and the seeds that are on it will fall and drop and grow again next year. I've now taken a few steps back from that section to quickly show you what I planted in here, which is right beside the side gate. So there are more zinnias. They're really tiny. You can see one there. So small at the moment. These ones are called Purple Prince. Beside them I have these little salvias. I probably planted these a bit too close to each other. There's 4 of them. I actually bought this from my local garden centre. I was told it's a new variety. You are kidding me. Is that a slug or snail? It's a snail. Great. Sorry. Snails all the time, everywhere. And I'm not the only one actually, because I posted it on Instagram and lots of other people in Australia, especially here in New South Wales, were saying they have a big problem with slugs and snails this year. Yeah, anyway, sorry, getting distracted. So I really liked the look of these. They're compact and they had these beautiful pink flower spikes. I thought they would look quite nice there just as you come through to the back garden along here. And then there's a couple of Verbena bonariensis, and there's a cosmos over there too. I'm out in the front garden now. This paper bark is in full flower, and I don't know whether you can hear it, but the sound of the bees is so loud. Down beside this tree is where I have my vine patch, and I've actually got a few plants ready now to go in here, which I've just put together to show you. So these ones aren't quite really vining, these are more of my zucchinis. So this one here is the Costa Romanesque, and look at that, you see that shine on the top of the leaves? That's from slugs and snails. Obviously got a lot more in the garden. And then this one here is yellow scallop. I always put at least 3 in one pot, even though I'm not going to use all of these. It's always good to sow extra seeds because, well, look, case in point, I did have 3 in here and 2 of them are gone already, so this is the only one I've got left. I need to protect it a lot better. And then here I also have some gold rush zucchini. I've only got 1 there. Oh, it looks like that one it's just starting to come up, but I can see a bit of a slime on it as well. I think someone's been eating that one. And then here, these are vining. These are my Lebanese cucumbers. I haven't quite decided where exactly I'm going to put these. I might put 1 into this location, but I am going to grow a lot of Lebanese cucumbers this year because my youngest son eats these by the bucket load. So he absolutely loves them. I'm definitely going to have heaps of these plants to keep him going during the next few months. I've got a few new flowers to show you this week which are blooming, starting off with this Foxglove. It's the first one to have put out its flower spike. It should get much taller than this, so I'll be able to keep you updated over the next few weeks. I wish I had got around to weeding behind it. You can see all the grass and other weeds in there. Maybe next week when we come back to this it'll be nice and cleared out. I always think of these little flowers as the red carpet of the bee world, with that little speckled pattern leading up to the pollen deep inside there. There are some wallflowers which I planted a couple of years ago, and they've started to kind of naturalise here in the garden. I have a patch of them over in this section beside the self-seeded Pride of Mandaria plants. I know I've shown you these honesty flowers before, but I had to squeeze it into this week's garden update because look how many more blooms are on this plant. And it's really exciting to see that they're starting to develop their seed pods. There's a couple just here. They will grow, enlarge and get more translucent, and you can see the little seeds inside. There are now flowers on the Australian native viola. This is a really unusual Pelargonium. I've never seen one of these plants before. I was fortunate enough to be given some cuttings of this plant from a lady who won our local garden competition a few years ago, and it's flowering now. Not too many, and you can see it comes in these really big clusters of blooms. I probably should come in here and take some more cuttings and try and get some to grow in the back garden as well. There's this bearded iris and a valerium. I'm now at the 15-metre garden bed out the front garden, and check out all of these evening primrose flowers. Absolutely heaps of them, and most of these plants here have just self-seeded. Oh, there's another weed. Self-seeded, and I've also put in lots of catmint, and they are flowering now too. There's these really pretty deep pink reddish flowers on the Leptospermum. Here's the big patch of Australian native pigface. It's a bit tricky to show you one of these flowers because they close up when the sun is in, and it's now overcast at the moment, but this is an old one here. I'll see if I can get a nice photo of one next week to show you. The Bottlebrush tree out the front is flowering, and there's so many times now when I come out to the front garden and there are lots and lots of birds in here, particularly the Australian native parrots. They adore these flowers. And last but certainly not least, I have this Bottlebrush shrub which is called Tarry Pink. I'm going to see if I can buy some more of this particular variety because it does so well here in my garden, and I just love that kind of hot pink colour. It's really, really pretty. Okay, let's head around to the back garden. A lot of the snapdragons are just starting to flower. There are so many lovely long stems with buds on them. I'll be able to use these as cut flowers. But the one thing I did notice about this plant is that a lot of its flowers have fallen to the ground, and I actually know who's been doing this. I'll try and get some footage of him over the week. So it's been a bowerbird that's come to visit the garden, and he's been picking the flowers off everywhere. He has the most beautiful blue satin feathers which shimmer in the sunlight, and it's such a joy to watch him. I'm really hoping that he chooses to have his nest here in our garden. Okay, I won't go on about him too much because I don't want to bore you, but what I want to say is that he creates the most beautiful little nest to attract the female bird, and he goes around and collects brightly coloured objects. So lots of blue things like, you know, a clothes peg or a bottle lid, and he gathers them up in an area, and it's so fun to watch. Actually, two of my friends have been lucky enough to have those nests in their garden, and I'm hoping maybe, just maybe, I will have one here this year. The stem on this rainbow chard has really fattened up. Look how wide it is now. Almost as big as a branch of a tree. Has anyone ever tried to cook with it before when it gets to this size? I was thinking I might slice it across and maybe make some little canapes where I put something on top of them. I don't know. Might give it a go. Here's another one of those snapdragon flowers, which I sowed the seeds back in autumn time. I like this one. I've never actually had a white flowering snapdragon before. And beside these lobelias, I've got a poppy. That'll be a nice surprise to see what one it is. Actually, speaking of poppies, let's go and check out one over in the raised garden bed area. I was just passing by these on the way to the raised beds. Another little lot of poppies that's self-seeded right on the edge of this garden bed. Okay, I'm nearly here. So at one of the very back beds, you can see that round red ball, which is the poppy that has just decided to grow there. Here it is. It's a Peony Poppy. I had a whole load of these growing in a different area of the garden last year, and this one somehow managed to turn up in this section, well away from the original patch. There's another flower bud. Actually, there's quite a few on this. That one will probably be open in a couple of days. I feel like poppies give you two shows. The first one is when it's in bloom with all its beautiful petals, but then once they drop off, you're left with the seed head, which you can see in there. And I love them. They last for such a long time and look really beautiful in dried flower arrangements. We've come to the end of this week's garden update. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you again next Friday.